Hey, what's up everybody? It's Lids, and we're back for some more Mardek, and we're back in the Sandflow Caves, and we're in this secret-ish area once more because I realized that it looks like there's actually a hidden chest in here that I did not notice at first. So let's see what we can find here. And it's, well, okay. It's a human skull, which we have gotten plenty of in the past from various fights, so maybe not the end of the world if we were to have missed that, but we'll pick it up no less. And we'll attempt to make our way back through the secret area blind. And I believe we are fairly close to mastering some of the new skills that we picked up from some of those items that we picked up recently. These are a new iteration of the phages, a fire version this time. We've seen both light and earth elemental versions in the past. So these ones, very resistant to fire, they heal from it, very weak to water, and some resistance to air. Now that could pose as a bit of an issue here because, for the most part, we have fire damage, a lot of that, and we have a little bit of air damage as well. So these guys, it's going to be a little bit tough to find a good way to damage them. And magic defense is just absolutely absurdly high. So that means that, I suppose, Charla using Lightning Bolt here, not going to be terribly relevant. So they are also actually starting with physical shields here. Normally, against the previous phages that we fought, they would need to take a turn to activate those, so that makes it even more difficult. I don't think we're going to be breaking through that 40 magic defense anytime soon, so it is probably still better to use physical attacks, but even then, not going to be a lot of damage for us to do. And they use flame, offensive spells here. Fortunately, you hit Donovan, who, especially when he hits his defensive reaction, is capable of healing from fire damage. So again, probably not a good idea to counter with a flame of our own, because they'll heal, and also it will probably deal 0 damage. And a poison, oh, and that also means that we don't want to hit our offensive reaction with Donovan, because that will turn our attack into a fire attack, and will heal the damage that we just dealt. Okay, we're learning here. As for Mardek, you should be all clear to use an attack and hit your reaction, probably our best source of damage. And you see there, when he dealt the damage, there was the number that was the amount of damage that he dealt, but there was also a smaller number in green to the right of that, and that was the amount of damage that Mardek healed, because remember, we put on the offensive reaction on Mardek that allows him to heal 10% of the damage that he deals, so that will be another thing to keep an eye out for. Slinik, you're the other person with a high amount of damage here. Do we think you can take out the other one outright? Mardek was not able to. Certainly you would be able to take this guy out who's on low HP. Let's give it a shot. I think on occasion you might be able to deal slightly more damage than Mardek does, and also this phage had 10 less HP. Between those two things, no. Wishful thinking, I suppose. Charla, though, maybe you can finish this one? You can, and it was close. Okay, probably prefer when you use the physical attacks, unless if you're attacking Donovan, because Donovan has that magical fire resistance reaction, so it's actually better for you to attack him with spells. And that does mean that technically we would want to attack this guy and deliberately miss, but we have so many people who have reactions to work on that I think we're better off passing there. And I even wonder, is this an opportunity to use some active skills that we need? I don't think so, though. At least not on Mardek. Mardek has mastered all of his skills here. It's mostly Charla, and Charla is last here. So that would mean that if Charla were to take a turn to use something like, I forget if it's Remove Paralysis, or maybe it's Null Air Once, I think are the two abilities we're looking to finish up on her. We did one of those last time. I think it was Remove Paralysis. So either way, those spells are things that don't deal any damage, so that means the phage will get another turn. So let's go offensive here and take it out. So there you saw he dealt 185 damage and healed 18. And actually, that's Mardek mastering that magic fire defense, the one that we thought was never going to happen. It finally has happened. So that means he does not need the fire pendant anymore, unless we feel like it's useful to keep it on because there are so many fire damaging enemies here. Which may not be a bad idea. But we should probably take a look at what our alternatives are, because I believe there are several at this point. I don't think he's done +1 strength, which is not a huge boost, but might be something that's worth throwing on just for a little bit. Master that up. And the other thing is, did he actually ever get the chance to master locomotion? I know he was working on it, or at least had this item equipped at one point. He's not mastered it. So I feel like that's a better use of Mardek's time in that case than just a quick +1 strength, which he could master fairly quickly, and so then we could swap on over to something a little bit more ambitious, but for the time being at least, I think it probably makes sense. Oh, hold on though. He's all RP'd up at the moment. I think we can probably remove plus 10% HP to put on locomotion though. The main thing I was looking at is we don't want to take off resist water, because that's the big one coming from the Trilobite armor. And it's going to take a while to master that, and it is far and away the most powerful. So we shouldn't get rid of it. Okay, now there are a few different directions we can go here, and any of a number of them might go into entirely separate areas. I'm not sure if any of these are actually dead ends, besides maybe this area here with the chests. Maybe that's reason enough to go that way first. Let's do that. The other thing I want to do is I want to make sure that we take a chance to talk to some of our friends here. So let's do that after this battle. See what they have to say about the Sandpo Caves area. Okay, so blood lizards. We've seen plenty of them. We could potentially take this turn with Charlotte to use some of her new active skills, but we'll wait for a little while longer. So there's the healing move, and there's a move that would have dealt 0 damage to Mardek if he still had, again, would have dealt 0 damage to Mardek if he still had that accessory on. Okay, and then Donovan, again, theoretically, we, at least to maximize damage, would want to miss our reaction. However, I think you're still working on your offensive reaction, so we would like to hit it for that reason at least. So let's do it. He does apply poison, so in some ways, I guess that kind of counters how we know that Donovan's dealing less damage with that. Mardek's still capable of taking him out in one hit. Slinek, same with you? Yes. Okay. So, Darla, if you were to attack this guy, either physically or with a spell, he probably would die from poison on his turn. We would take no additional damage. Success. However, might we try to sneak in one more null air once? Let's give that a shot, because I think it's gonna take a little bit of a committed effort to make that happen. Ooh, and that's not great. Charlotte is, of course, weak to fire, so you don't like to see that. But it does also mean that other people get the chance to use a little bit more of those offensive reactions. Just sacrificing a little bit of Charlotte's HP in the process. She'll be fine, don't worry about it. And there's another fire opal, the game saying lids. You were saying that you didn't want Mardek to use that item. Well, I'm going to make you think twice about it. And in fact, with Mardek mastering his ability that was coming from this, the blood opal, which was one of his offensive reactions. Actually, that wasn't the one I was thinking of. I was thinking of the critical. That is probably something we want to transition over to someone else, because this is really strong. Especially for Slinek. We were saying earlier how the more damage you deal, the more significant draining 10% of the damage you deal is. So Slinek is roughly halfway to finishing the blindness immunity skill, and same thing for poison immunity. So it would mean that we'd have to sacrifice one of those things, at least temporarily, in order to put this on. I think that is probably still worth it, though. And if we look at which one outside of its primary skill is more powerful, I think we'll find that the answer is that the Onyx Ring is better, because it has higher magic defense, has a little bit of dark resistance, and a little bit of strength, whereas the Snake Stone only has a little bit of magic defense and complete poison resistance. So let's do this, and let's make sure that we equip that skill on Slinek, because I think that will prove very helpful for him. Hopefully means that we don't need to heal him up nearly as often. Really cold water, remember, is the offensive potion, one that deals cold damage or water damage, and so probably makes sense to put some of that on Slinek, because he would not otherwise have access to any cold, not say cold, Path of Exile's making me say cold, but water damage skills. ANT+LION. Seen plenty of them before. Very high damage. They have those offensive reactions when we hit them with an attack. So we theoretically should try to use predominantly spells here. I don't think we've seen it use Frenzy before, but it is basically the same thing that Zac has, which means that it will randomly attack enemies, but it will deal basically twice as much damage because it has doubled its strength, which isn't shown up here, but it would go from 22 to 44. So that's, yeah, you know, if we were concerned about it potentially dealing a lot of damage before, now that is even more so the concern. And that might also be reason to be extra careful about doing physical attacks against it. As much as we might have wanted to take one more physical attack with Donovan there, I don't think that would have been a good idea. And now we're in a bit of a tricky place here, where, at least for Mardek, he does not have any spells that deal damage, unless we were to use something like that really cold water or alchemist fire or something of that sort. But I think instead I'm noticing that we have several friends who are not on full HP, and we might need that to be the case if they're to not get one shot by this guy here. Slinik does have Fire Breath, so this seems like a good time to do that, and that gets him very low. So hopefully that means that Charlotte can take him out here. Okay. Breathe a sigh of relief, because that guy, I'm pretty certain, would have been able to one-shot at least Charla, probably Donovan as well. Not sure for Mardek or Slinik, because they have more HP. Okay. So we see two chests here. Yes, it is truly two chests and not one hidden in addition to this. Okay, so some better potions. Let's put those on Slinik. Again, he's kind of catching up with others. Remedy, Charlotte actually needs those as well. But show Slinik some love. Okay, and another Temperance. We actually haven't seen any in the Sandflow Caves yet. We saw some in the Sun Temple. So this one has the blue head up top, which means it's Water Elemental. Haven't seen a lot of Water Elemental enemies over here. But that means that it's actually very weak to Earth. Don't have a lot of Earth damage at the moment, and somewhat weak to Air, which we have a little bit of that. So, let's Lightning Bolt in that case. And it probably means that we will be using, for the most part, our attacks rather than our spells. Because with the exception of Donovan, that means that they will be non-elemental. It does have regen. Slinik, though, hopefully you're powerful enough that that's not going to matter. That is the case. Okay. And there is Slinik's offensive reaction there, not the one that we just put on for the healing, but for the little bit of extra damage, so we'll keep that on, of course. However, I do think that was the primary reason why we were using the Great Axe. Yeah, he has now mastered this, and I think we picked up an Iron Axe to replace it. So let's throw that on instead, because we were using an axe with 34 damage, whereas this has 38, so should mean Slinik now is dealing more damage, and it was previously pretty darn close between Slinik and Mardek, but I think between getting that higher base damage weapon and also now getting access to another offensive reaction, that should pretty clearly put Slinik in the lead in terms of best single target damage, at least, with his attacks. Would be nice to be able to put on Quarry Human. Oh, actually, we can. I was going to say, I assumed that it was going to have too much RP, but look at that. Still doable. Let's actually take another look as well. It's been a little while since we looked at everyone to see have they maybe picked up more RP from leveling up. Might that allow them to use one more skill? Would be the case for Donovan here on the magic side of his defensive reactions, but I think that was coming from a chest plate, and I'm not sure what he's currently equipping for chest plates. Can't quite do +1 strength here, although he has already mastered it, so not like that's a super high concern. Oh, it was coming from his original robe. However, at the moment, he's working on Resist Earth on the Geo Jacket. He's halfway through that. So that, I think, we can stand by that. That's still a high priority to make that happen. Oh, and we didn't put a second accessory back on Mardek? That we should do something about. So, we were saying, finish up Locomotion here. And then I thought there was one other item we were considering. But we have not yet used the Amethyst on anyone, I don't think. This was an item that we got in the Sun Temple. And it will give us Clarity, which is immunity to confusion. Now, Mardek can't do that and Locomotion and Resist Water all at the same time. So that probably means that if Mardek is to learn that ability, now is not necessarily the time. He's a little bit too much that he's trying to do. So, in that case, do we want to put on an item that just has high stats, good defenses, or do we want to see if we can sneak something in that still gives him a skill of some variety? because I'm not sure there's going to be many of those at this stage. Or maybe even an air pendant. That's a bit of a risk, because it has the vulnerable to fire 50% stat on it, and we were saying earlier, there's a lot of fire damage in here, but the reason why that stands out to me at the moment is because Mardek, as we were just saying, is basically full when it comes to his passive skill RP. However, when it comes to his magic defensive reaction RP, a 6 RP skill fits right in. It's just, you know, from the standpoint of the types of enemies we're fighting right now, it's not the best fit. Okay, so we can go any of, possibly as many as 3 directions here. And more blood lizards. So let's, I think, use the same strategy before. We'll use Charla offensively here. And they will react, attacking her and Slinik. But mostly her. Yeah, that hurt a lot. Wow. Okay, so Charla's not looking great. Donovan, can you take out this blood lizard? Not if we hit the offensive reaction, which we're still looking to, I think. We should double check. I'm pretty sure he's still looking to get that poison reaction. So, Mardek, we could heal with you, or we could heal with Charla. However, if we heal with Charla, that means that because Charla is the last person to go before the blood lizard's next turn, that theoretically the blood lizards will at least get another chance to attack back. So let's heal with Mardek. Does get her back up to full HP. Slinik, you have your new weapon, so you should be dealing more damage that way, and offensive reactions too, so this should be, yes, 500 damage. I think is more than Mardek was ever doing, at least for enemies that don't have a weakness to, say, light when he was using the champion sword, or a crit, which of course deals more damage. So, we're back at Charla, and that means that there's at least going to be 1 surviving blood lizard here. That is unfortunate, but we'll take out one of them. And someone has leveled up. Looks like it was Donovan. So Donovan, I think, same rules apply here. Hit those reactions. We do want you to master that as soon as you can. And then, because then we could deliberately go back to not hitting the reactions to deal a little bit more damage. Because it seems like almost everyone in this area has resistance to fire. So Mardek, on this occasion, I think you can use an attack. No need to heal here, so we can wrap things up. Okay. And yes, so we can go left or right here. And I don't recall as to which one is technically preferred at this stage, but as you can see here, in either direction we would be going into a separate area of the Sandflow Caves. And I was just talking a little while ago about how we wanted to catch up with some people, see what they have to say about this area, so let's do that. It is stiflingly warm in here. I would prefer if we could find a way out of here soon. Maybe that's why there are so many fire enemies in here? Donovan? My. This wasn't part of the mission briefing. We're getting in deeper than I expected. But that's the beauty of the guard work, eh? Or night work, in this case. Finding the unknown? Helping those you never even knew needed help? The noblest hearts belong to those who give aid without being explicitly asked. The fact that we do this is what sets the guard apart from mere mercenaries. I suppose so. And Slinik? These caves have been used by my people for generations as a training place for warriors. It's sort of what we're using them for now, in a way. The monsters within are strong, usually too strong for mere humans. The priests never come in here to show me what you adventurers can do. Okay. Slinik says, are you guys capable? Can you handle it? Other humans can't. So this seems like a convenient place to have a healing crystal, because, well, otherwise we'd be wandering through these caves for quite some time, perhaps without having that ability to do so, unless we went all the way back into town. Okay, another Happy Johnny. I believe we've seen a couple of these before. They are a little bit strange, in that they have that really high evasion and pretty high magic defense as well, so it's hard to deal damage to them. You try with the lightning bolt. It's actually enough to take him out, so that's fortunate for sure. Okay, and that's actually enough for Charlotte to master +2 agility, which was coming from Boots of Celerity. And she has also mastered Agility Boost. It is a decent item in the way that it gives her a passive plus 10 Agility. She was basically guaranteed to go first every single battle as long as she was equipping this. But there are probably still other things that we would like to have that we could put on Charlotte here. Oh, and he has also mastered everything on the Topaz, so we probably should have swapped that off a long time ago. Could give her +1 strength. That's not super meaningful for her because she's not using physical attacks all that often. It does happen on occasion. So that's an option, but not a very good one, in my opinion, at this stage. There are probably higher priorities here. Things like, say... I'm thinking things that give status immunities of some variety. She probably does not have many of those done yet. So in that case, things like Insomnia, maybe. That could be worthwhile to do. Things like... Wasn't Slinick just working on some of those things earlier? Poison immunity, maybe, with Antibody? Let's check those out. That might be a little bit of a better fit. So if we take off the +2 agility, then we could do both of these here. And that is a perfect fit in terms of the amount of RP that she has, so that sounds good. And then, do we have a similar situation with Donovan? I feel like we probably do. Yes, he has mastered everything here. So let's take that off. And then we could put Bright Eyes with this item here. The Onyx Ring is basically just a better version of the Slovakian Amulet. Based on the stats we see here, where this has just a little bit of light resistance, a bit of extra spirit as well. Whereas this has strength and a bunch of dark resistance. So, it's possible we could consider it, but are there better options here? Could also give him a Moonstone Ring. Let's try that, maybe. I'm pretty sure he's not done Insomnia yet. He is not? Okay. So, ooh, except, hold on. He cannot make it fit because he's using Resist Earth. So in that case, this actually would make sense for us to throw on the Topaz so that he can get +1 agility, because that is a very low RP skill. So there are still uses for that. And here we see there's another one of these blocked off areas, so we'll need to find a green switch somewhere to get through here. Unfortunately, can't do that yet. And then a chest here. It's central enough to this area, I feel like there's a non-zero chance this is a fight. We'll see. Oh, it isn't. It's actually an iron spear, and we did purchase some of these a ways back in town, so theoretically we might have been able to save a little bit of coins if we had held off. More gemstones, the enemy variety, and there was also one of those reptoids that we're looking to talk to and send them back to the village, so we'll try to talk to him immediately after this. Okay, so it's going to be a little bit tough to find a good enemy to hit with the lightning bolt, because, well, it's not going to be the Topazes. They have 200% resistance. I suppose we could still do the Fire Opal. No resistance that way, and yeah, it is enough to take it out. And I think these guys are very strong to physical attacks. Yeah, 20 defense. That means that I think Donovan can probably take these guys out outright, because they are weak to fire, except I missed the reaction. Fortunately, Donovan's still strong enough to make it happen. Okay. And then let's talk to this guy here. Chief! Ah, I wasn't dossing around. Honest. I'm searching. You need search no longer, warrior. I shall handle this. Return to the village. Really? Great. Thanks. You're the best chief ever. Be sure to tell the others, too. Alright, and yes, I believe we heard word that there are, in total, 4 of those Reptoid warriors, and we've now found 2 of them. So a few more to find, but we're getting there. And they'll be scattered around this area, of course. Okay, so now, notably, after having taken off that super agility on Charla, the ANT+LION is now faster than her, which means it was able to fit in one of those frenzies before we could deal any damage to it. So even though the Lupusers go next, I think we want to prioritize this guy first and foremost, even if it means taking a little bit of damage from these guys here. Okay. So that means, again, we want to avoid the physical attacks on this guy. But magic away we shall. And I don't think Mardek can deal enough damage to take him out without having the risk of having him fight right back and potentially deal a ton of damage to Mardek. So let's heal. It looks like Charla needs it most. And then Slinik can use a magic ability, so I think that is preferable, because then the ANT+LION is low enough that, well, if he doesn't one-shot Donovan, we could take him out next turn. So we could do that here. I think we still probably should. But yeah, in case you were wondering why I was so concerned about him, yeah, that was over 700 damage, which means he would have been able to one-shot anyone. Happened to choose the character with the second lowest HP, but, well, no one was safe. So I think we will wait for Donovan to come back at the end of the fight, is what I'm thinking, and save one of our Phoenix downs. Sorry, Donovan. Nothing personal, buddy. And then Slinik, in theory, we are working on the offensive reactions there, so we should use an attack, not a spell. And we'll get Donovan back, don't worry about it. He's fine. Sorta. There we go. That'll be enough, right? So yeah. There you see, those guys, quite threatening. Okay, and actually, this area is a bit of a circle here, where we could go up and around and potentially make it to this chest here. However, there's also a chest in that spot as well. Let's try that one. Not sure there's necessarily a right or wrong answer as to which one is one you ought to do first. This one, again, I'm getting a little bit of fight vibes, but maybe not. More really cold water. And again, mostly just looking to split that a little bit between the party members so that everyone has a way to deal a little bit of water damage. Now we'll head up and get thrown into a fight that we cannot skip against a couple of Happy Johnnies. So it seems like we're able to take them out in one hit with Charlotte if we attack just one of them. If we split our damage amongst two, then I'm not sure we're going to be able to pull that off. Let's deliberately just go for one. Uh-oh. Maybe I was wrong. And 1,000 needles is their strongest attack. And it is also partially why I was saying earlier that these guys are tricky. They are very hard to deal damage to, and when they use that skill, they deal a ton of damage. So, it would have dealt 1,000 damage, however, Charla, I believe, has the minus 20% magic defensive reaction, so that's why it dealt 800. Yeah, so again, that would be a skill that, at this rate, could likely one-shot just about anyone, unless Mardek has 30% magic damage reduction, but I don't think he does, so yeah. These guys, also, a bit scary. And again, I think same rules apply here, where we would probably wait till the end of the battle to heal Charla up, so that we don't have to use a Phoenix down here. Mardek, this is going to be a bit tricky, because, well, you have a 30% chance to hit, and you did not pull it off. Slinik, you can use Fire Breath, which means a guaranteed hit. Let's take out the one with more HP. But that does mean these guys are going to get the chance to do this again against Mardek this time, which is not good. That means both of our healers are down. And Donovan, let's use another flame here. Notice as well how much experience these guys give. It is humongous, over 1,000 apiece, which is just further indication that they may look all innocent and whatnot, but they are actually extremely powerful enemies. Let's conveniently use the save crystal here, and then we'll check out what is up in this direction. And hopefully avoid running into more of those Happy Johnnies. And we actually see that this connects to a different area in the Sandflow Caves. It is a door, and that means that we are not going to loop around to this spot, at least not by going this direction, and also means there's no green switch in this area, so we'll have to find one elsewhere. And that's kind of sense as to what it's going to be like with these switches, because in the past, when we saw the switches, generally speaking, the place where you went through the door was pretty nearby. However, this large Sandflow Caves area is so spread out that we'll have some switches that are all the way on the opposite side. So that means that, well, we're going to have to do a little bit of backtracking. It is pretty much unavoidable in this area, and that means we're going to be fighting a lot more of those enemies here. But I think that for that reason, this is probably a good place for us to wrap up here. So I will see you all in the next video, in which we'll check out more stuff in the Sandflow Caves, see if we can unlock some of these areas.